Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, our host. This is our 154th episode, December 14th, 2016. We recorded this. You can see all my shows. You can see the schedule of the cable casts on public access television and so forth at my video blog, walkinthepark.tv. That's a URL. That is a website. So, 154 episodes. You can go there and see all past episodes, 154 in all, so and other videos as well. So this time we're going to talk about trees, big trees, big trees. Big trees are not that common, so we're going to take a look at some of the big trees around here. Here's a big tree that is in the Martin Nature Preserve of the Finger Lakes Land Trust over in Schuyler County, so west of Cayuga Lake. So let's go there, take a look at that one. Right on the bank of Catlin Mill Creek, which runs through the preserve, stretch the graceful limbs of a 300-year-old white oak. At about 5 feet in diameter, the ancient oak stands as testament to the beauty and strength of trees. Because of the extensive logging in the northeastern United States, trees like this one are rare and welcome sights. Okay, so there are some big old trees out there. Sometimes they call those wolf trees. I showed that on a previous show. But actually, there is a New York State register of big trees. What are the champion trees of New York State? And you can go online to the Department of Environmental Conservation and actually see where the current champions are. It seems there's a few people that really go out and see these things and find them. So there's a lot of them over in Livingston County and in the Letchworth State Park area, because the naturalist over there, Doug Bassett, has got his name on more trees than any, but he's really into it. So let's take a look at a couple of other big trees around. This one, I actually was sent to me a picture by a guy named Mike Rigel. This is in Howland Island, which is sort of northeast of Cayuga Lake in Port Byron, New York. This is a big old red oak. That is a big tree. It's not the champion. The champion, let's see, is in Dutchess County, which is 428 inches in circumference and 83 feet high. Let's go down. What else we have here? This is a woman in Ithaca sent me this one. This isn't a record of any sort, but Vicki Claremont Rogers. This is a Norway maple in our backyard, right behind Titus Towers, taken November 21st. Well, we were quite surprised it hadn't dropped its leaves yet. Love this tree. Provides wonderful shade, and it's really beautiful. The state champion for this Norway maple is also in Livingston County, and 71 feet high, 175 inches in circumference at 4.5 feet above the ground. Here is one that fellow in the Adirondacks sent me, Bobby Yeager Sweeting. I guess it might be a woman. the Wanakina Ranger School, White Pine, up near Cranberry Lake. And I know that forest up there, and there's a really great stand of old growth white pines up there. And then here's one in Finger Lakes National Forest that I took that was actually saved from the loggers saw a number of years ago from local foresters and residents wanted to save it. So, but the record white pine, let's see, these are not the records. The state champion, 14 feet in circumference, 169 inches, 152 feet high in Warren County, nominated by Bob Leverett, who is another person who goes out and looks at trees. I think he's in the American Forest Society or whatever it is. So anyway, there's some really big trees all around this, but some of them are few and far between, and you can find them. They're fun to go out and make friends with trees. Once again, this is Walk in the Park, walkinthepark.tv to see all our shows. So now, though, we're going to go take a trip and see some really big trees out in California. Some of the biggest trees there are in Yosemite National Park. You might recognize this picture, especially if you have a Macintosh computer. It shows these mountains in that as your screensaver. Picture of California here, a map of California. And in the center, that blue area says Yosemite National Park. So that's where we're going. Here's a map of the park with the roads going to particular sites in it. And sort of you go down from the top road, which is the Tioga Pass Road. The next one down goes into Yosemite Valley, and that's where this view is. But we're going to go down to the Mariposa Grove, the road that goes all the way down to the bottom of the map, the Mariposa Grove. And there we are. There's some of the big trees down there. And we're going to have a little video just to show you what some of those trees look like. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Okay, let's look at this video.
민주야, 너도 줄 서. What?
So those are the giant sequoias, and they are the largest single trees and largest living thing by volume in the world. Giant sequoias grow to an average of 50 to 85 meters, or 164 to 279 feet. And they're 6 to 8 meters in diameter, or 26 feet. They can be 26 feet in diameter. Record trees have been measured to be 94.8 meters, or 311 feet high. So these are the biggest trees in the world. They're not the tallest. Probably the coast redwoods are the tallest. But they're amazing. 311 feet, that's a football field in length and a little bit more. So I was there 2.5 years ago in Yosemite, and I had a good time. And I got down to the Mariposa Grove. That's where I took these pictures and videos. And I went on a guided walk with a ranger there. And, well, I'll take you on that walk. I have excerpts from his tour, so let's take a look at it.
Years of age in a fire-dependent forest without developing some fire-resistant properties. And I can think of 5 ways that giant sequoias are able to take and resist and live through forest fires. The first of which is just the great height of the tree itself. At between 250 to 280 feet tall on average, giant sequoias are well above most of our low-intensity forest fires which come into our forest. So as our friend, the white fir and the incense cedar are kind of singeing and burning up, the giant sequoia's canopy spongy. Its needles, its foliage are so high off the ground that the fire just cannot climb to that great height and consume the tree. So one of the things giant sequoias have going for it is the great height of the tree itself. Another thing giant sequoias have going for it is that tannic acid that we talked about earlier. Remember how I said it's in great quantities in the bark? Well, much like our pine trees, giant sequoias have a water-based sap, and water is the substance inside of that tannic acid. Because it's in such high concentration in the bark, we're able to take and say that that's a fire-resistant property. So tannic acid, very, very good for giant sequoias as far as being fire-resistant. Another thing about giant sequoias is the fact that all that water inside of it, because of that water-based sap, it's kind of like a great big water storage tank. In fact, these trees need hundreds of gallons of water every day just to survive. So we can't see it right now, but there is a ton of water just moving up and down this great tree right now. So it may seem dry, but this giant sequoia is well hydrated, believe it or not. Now, that's three things that we talked about. The fourth and fifth thing have to do with the bark itself. So besides that tannic acid, giant sequoia's bark, it's very, very spongy. If we walked up to this tree right now, we could press that bark in several centimeters in a lot of cases. So when fire comes through the Mariposa Grove with giant sequoia, it'll singe the outside of the tree. However, it won't conduct the heat well enough to actually get into the interior of the tree and harm the tree itself. So giant sequoia's bark, very, very spongy. Very good stuff as far as that's concerned. And the final thing about the bark that I can tell you is it's between 12 to 24 inches thick in some places. So it's got a very thick bark that's very, very spongy. It's got all that tannic acid inside of it that's a water-based substance. It's got all that water inside of it because it's a water-based sap tree, much like our pine trees, and it is also very tall. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can tell, giant sequoias were built to survive. However, we all know that everything that lives doesn't exactly live forever. So at the next stop, we're going to talk about the root systems of giant sequoias, how they're able to get those hundreds of gallons of water every day, and I will introduce to you 2 ways that giant sequoias will actually die.
Okay, so a little bit about fire in giant sequoias, which is a big deal out there, and you may have been following some of the Yosemite fires. So we're going to go on to another section of his walk. This one's going to be about, the naming of the trees. The trees all once had names, but they've kind of backed off of that for conservation reasons. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So let's take a look.
However, over my right-hand shoulder is the Bachelor and 3 Graces, very famous giant sequoias right there, named by Jesse Fremont. Now, we have a saying in the National Park Service, and I hate to admit it, but rangers tell very, very corny jokes. If you go on enough ranger-led programs, you're going to know this. Yes, as this gentleman is indicating. One of the very bad jokes that we tell is the first one of our Graces in behind our Bachelor right here that touches him with a branch, she gets to marry him. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to have a giant sequoia wedding ceremony up here. I hope not. However, one thing that I am sure about is at one time, all 480 of our mature giant sequoias had names. You could actually go down to the Wawona Hotel in the 1870s, and for a fee of $10, they would bring you up to the Mariposa Grove, and you can name a giant sequoia. Now, adjusted for inflation, ladies and gentlemen, that $10 works out to be about $670 today, but I know a lot of people that would still gladly pay that fee to come up here and name a tree in this great grove. But we have trees that are named after states, such as the Nevada tree, the Arizona tree, the California tree. We have trees named after presidents, such as the Lincoln tree. We have a Washington tree in the Mariposa Grove as well. We also have a Groveland Cleveland tree. We also have trees named after universities, such as the Harvard tree, the Columbia tree, and the Yale tree. However, one thing that we started to notice in the early 20th century, ladies and gentlemen, is some of our trees named after places, after universities, they were getting a little bit thin around the bottom. Let's say somebody from Nevada came up and saw the Nevada tree and said, you know what, I like the Nevada tree so much, I'm taking a piece of it home with me. Individuals were breaking off humongous pieces of bark and taking them home as souvenirs. So it was around the 1940s, 1950s that many of the trees' names, we dropped them for safety purposes. We just didn't want people going up to these great trees, breaking off bark and taking taken home with them. But we also dropped the tree names for another specific reason as well. You know, we have 480 mature giant sequoias all within the boundaries of the Mariposa Grove. Just to put that into perspective, just to give context to that, Yosemite has two other groves of giant sequoias within its boundaries, the Tuolumne Grove and the Merced Grove. The Tuolumne Grove boasts only 40 trees and the Merced Grove only 20. There's only 20,000 of these trees at maturity all throughout the world. And when I mean all throughout the world, I mean here in the Yosemite area and also the Sierra Nevada mountain range. No other place will you actually see giant sequoias naturally occurring. So when you see the Bachelor of Three Graces, when you see the Grizzly Giant, when you walk through the California tunnel tree and make your way up through the grove, don't just look at the trees with names, okay? Those are special trees, but look at all of them for what they are. Something unique, something very special, something you will not see every day. Now, inevitably, I'm going to get a question right here because we're talking about where these trees grow. Can I take little giant sequoia from point A and point into point B, right? And point B is always the backyard. Yes, you can transplant giant sequoias. Given enough sunshine, given enough water, the tree will grow almost anywhere in the world. We have botanical gardens in London, Chile, Russia, with mature giant sequoias coming up. Not this size just yet, but they're getting there. So if you want a giant sequoia for your own, we have seed kits down in the gift shop and the Mariposa Grove parking lot, and you can also go to your nursery back home and get a little giant sequoia or have them order one for you. But this is very important, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot take a little giant sequoia of your own from the Mariposa Grove or any other national park. So little giant sequoias, little stones, and also cones, they stay within park boundaries because there's no collecting in your national parks, guys.
Okay. So now we're going to go finish up this little walk here with this guy, at least the segments that I have at the Grizzly Giant, and learn some of the history of the Mariposa Grove.
To 2,000 years of age. Some people seem to think it's 1,910 years of age, but I won't get that specific for you guys. I'll have a nice great big window for you. Now the reason why we call it the Grizzly Giant is because it looks kind of like a great big grizzly old mountain man, right? It doesn't take a great stretch of the imagination to see that. And I'm going to end this tour with a story about the first European mountain man to see the Mariposa Grove. Now I say specifically European mountain man because the Native Americans, the indigenous people of this area, they've been here for 6,000 to 8,000 years. So when Galen Clark first came here, the first European American to see these trees, the Native Americans have already known about this grove for many, many, many generations. Now Galen Clark was not from California originally. He came from New England with the Great California Gold Rush of 1849. He settled in a small town called Mariposa about 20 miles outside of the park boundaries to the west. Now Galen Clark, he was a really good guy, but he was an awful gold miner. So he didn't get rich with the other 49ers. However, he heard about a place called Yosemite Valley. And when a party of tourists came through the Mariposa in 1854, they were going to Yosemite Valley, he decided to tag along with them. So Galen Clark went to the valley, he saw the great granite cliffs, the great waterfall, loved it as we all do. However, when he got back to Mariposa, once again, he wasn't a rich man. So he decided to leave California and go back home to New England. On his trip back to New England, though, he came down with an affliction known as consumption, or what we call today tuberculosis. So Galen went to the doctor, and the doctor said, Galen, I'm sorry to tell you this, but guess what? You've only got 6 months to live. So Galen thought things over and said, you know what? If I've only got 6 months to live, I'm going back out to California, a place I thought was really special. I'm probably not going to get better. I may get better, though. However, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die out there. So Galen made the trek all the way back out to California and settled in an area about 6 miles from here that he called Clark Station. It was kind of like a little waypoint for visitors heading up to Yosemite Valley to stay at. So Galen Clark, he was a great innkeeper. He ran Clark Station in 1856, and then in 1857 he came up over here to the Mariposa Grove area with another gentleman hunting bear. They didn't see any bear on that trip to hunt. However, they saw the great giant sequoia trees. They ran all the way back down to Clark Station, told everybody about it, but they thought they were telling a tall tale about these great trees. No one believed. So they told them a lie to get them to come up there. They told them they shot a great bear in this area and they needed a party of men to take it all the way back down to Clark Station. So a group of 7 men came up with Galen Clark and the other gentleman. Naturally, they didn't see the bear, but they finally believed him about the great size of the giant sequoias. And that's when this area became a tourist attraction in 1857. Now, Galen Clark, once again, he was a great innkeeper. However, he was very poor as far as taking care of his financial interests. He practically gave Clark Station away to the people that came up to the Yosemite area. Finally, in 1874, he lost his business to the Washburn family from Vermont, and they established the Wawona Hotel. And the Wawona Hotel is special, ladies and gentlemen, because it is the second oldest hotel in California. So Galen Clark lost his hotel, but previous to that, in 1864, when the Yosemite grant was signed, the people running the grant from the state of California, they decided to make Galen the guardian of the grant. So Galen Clark, a man with only 6 months to live, was running Clark Station, soon to be the Wawona Hotel, building and maintaining trails and bridges in the Mariposa Grove and Yosemite Valley, also making sure people didn't cut down these great trees. Not something that a guy with only 6 months to live should be doing, right? But Galen, he was getting stronger, he was getting better. The politics in the area, however, were changing, and the people running the Yosemite grant were changing as well. So sometime after he lost his hotel to the Washburn family from Vermont, the people running the grant removed Galen Clark from his guardianship and put somebody else in charge. Now, this other guy was not as conservation-minded as Galen. He was charging people for a lot of the trail use. He was also taking and letting people plant orchards in Yosemite Valley, something we would never do today, right? So this other guardian was very, very unpopular with the people and only lasted his one term of 4 years. After his 4-year term was up, they removed him from the guardianship and started looking for somebody else to be a Yosemite guardian. However, nobody was readily going to take the job. Nobody really wanted it. They wanted to make money off of their hotels and whatnot. So they actually went down after several months to Yosemite Valley, the people who were in charge of the guardianship, and started knocking on doors and offering it to anybody that would take it. Guess who opened one of the doors they knocked on? Galen Clark, exactly. So even though Galen was getting more advanced in age, he readily took the guardianship once again because he loved Yosemite so much. So a man with only 6 months to live, who was 47 years old in 1856, 1857, came out to the Yosemite area, was the first European American to see the Mariposa Grove giant sequoia, became Yosemite's guardian, lost his business, lost his guardianship, then was guardian one more time, and finally passed away 4 days short of his 96th birthday up near the Yosemite Valley area. If you want to see Galen today, he's still up in Yosemite Valley in the Yosemite Cemetery. Before he died, he dug his own grave, he made his own headstone, and he planted 5 of these great giant sequoia trees around where he wanted to rest. Now, I said previously that, you know, rangers tell very, very corny jokes. One of the jokes that I don't think is so corny that we tell is maybe the reason why Galen was able to live past that 6-month diagnosis is the longevity of these great giant sequoia trees rubbed off on the Galen. So before you guys leave, a couple of ways that maybe the longevity of these great trees can rub off them to you so you can see your grandkids, possibly your great-grandkids come up and enjoy Yosemite is 1, just maintain the policies of the Mariposa Grove. Try to stay on trail. Don't go up to trees and carve your names into them or whatnot. And little cones, rocks, and also other things go back into the forest before you guys leave. In fact, I'll throw this back into the forest right now, because I may not know it, but that could one day be a little giant sequoia that might rival the Grizzly Giant. And the thing that you need to remember to take care of this place, the most important thing, is what you're doing at this very moment. Learning about Yosemite, learning about nature. Because as we've seen in the past with the Yosemite grant, learning becomes caring, and caring leads to preservation. So ladies and gentlemen, just beyond the Grizzly Giant is the California Tunnel Tree, a tree you can walk through only 50 yards away. I will be in this area for about 20 more minutes if you have any questions.
Okay. So, yeah, the Mariposa Grove, which is the most famous of the giant sequoia groves, will be, has been closed the past 2 seasons. This was 2.5 years ago, 2014. And it's been closed for restoration to take out some of the roads and parking lots and gift shop and so forth. So I have a short little video actually that explain some of that. Won't be able to go all the way through it, but it's kind of a nice video.
Yosemite's Mariposa Grove is a living cathedral of wood, air, leaf, and light. To stroll in the presence of a giant sequoia is to be made a child again. With their shallow, far-reaching root systems, the big trees draw water from the melted winter snowpack throughout the long, hot Sierra summer. Any giant sequoia has the potential to become the largest living tree on Earth. And these ancient trees have witnessed centuries of history. In 1864, President Abraham Lincoln set aside the Mariposa Grove along with Yosemite Valley. This revolutionary act not only protected the sequoia, it gave roots to the national park idea. Today, people travel from around the world to experience these mountain giants. But roads, parking, and vehicles disrupt the flow of water, compact soils, damage sequoias, and threaten the grove's continued longevity. Vehicles drive atop shallow roots, their engines interrupting nature's symphony. And parking occurs in the midst of the forest sanctuary. Work is underway to remove these impacts and restore Mariposa Grove. As part of the restoration project, the parking area is being relocated away from the big trees, opening the forest for regeneration. Road segments are being converted to trails, restoring peace and tranquility. And buried streams and wetlands are being uncovered, returning a vital source of water for the grove.
Okay, that's all the time we have for that, but we'll do some more on big trees. Trees are wonderful, and especially the big ones, and there's a lot of value to them. And we'll have some more programs about big trees. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon.